Welcome to an amazing Tuesday. Looks like it might rain today. Usually we can use a little rain. I'm glad you're with me today. And as usual, I want to invite you in to my little world for just a moment. Quite a number of years ago, probably more than 30 years ago, went to a used book sale. Used to like to go to used book sales. Anyway, went to a used book sale where people had donated books and the money went to a charity library or something like that. Anyway, searching through the books, I didn't find a whole lot that I was greatly interested in. The religious books didn't have much there, but I came across one book that really caught my attention. It was entitled The Rest of the Story. Yes, you're right. It was Paul Harvey. It was Paul Harvey's book, a collection of his stories, or Rest of the Story stories. Some of you, older of us, would recognize and remember his reports, his television reports, sometimes broadcast on the news at the end of the news for a few moments, where he would tell about something and then he said in a moment, the rest of the story. And that's the way the book was composed. And I enjoy reading those little vignette type stories and telling about one. And then in the end, in a Hitchcock type fashion, he comes back to conclude the story and bring you out with what might be a surprise ending. Well, Paul Harvey's long gone now. And occasionally you can come across some of his reports. But in a like manner, others have tried to follow suit. Mike Rowe has done something like that, and he's an enjoyable character to listen to, has a nice deep voice. You've seen him on Dirty Jobs and a few other things on television and so forth, as he's been in the media for quite a while. But he put together also a book of vignettes, similarly, and in his vignettes, he says, and that's the way I heard it. He also has a podcast of the same. And it's enjoyable to listen to if you want to look that up and check it out. It's kind of fun to listen to some of the things that are there. Now, I'm not advocating everything that's said or saying that either one of these men had it all true, but they're just kind of fun and interesting to listen to. But the thing that strikes me is a reminder that we don't always have the whole story. One friend comes and tells us something and we become angry at someone else or think that person has been cheated or some other thing has happened, or they've described an event and we think it's exactly as we were told. Then you speak to somebody else and that person gives you a different viewpoint on it. It's kind of like reading all four of the Gospels about the life of Christ. Each one has a little bit different perspective on what Jesus was doing, and sometimes the stories tell a little different angle when they're the same story. But that's common of the way we do things, isn't it? But quite often we jump to conclusions or we carry on an idea. It's kind of like the old adage of when the legend becomes the truth, print the legend. You might know where that came from as well. But it's important that we know the full story. Sometimes we only hear one side, and then when it doesn't prove to be true, we become pretty cynical about how things are presented to us. Far better would be to look at life and see the broader picture of things. There's only one that I know that sees the full picture of everything that goes on. You understand what I'm saying. Most of us see with a very limited view, drawn upon our experience, drawn upon what our friends or our loved ones tell us. Sometimes we get the picture a little bit slanted. Not intentionally, just the way it is. You know, Jesus, when he began to teach, came into crowds of people and he would say things like he did. Matthew 5 in the Sermon on the Mount, verse 21, and he repeats this again. You've heard it said by those of old, but now I say to you. Gives the bigger picture, the story behind the story, the broad view of things. The view that God has of things. You see, we can limit our view and draw our perceptions only from what we hear from those we choose or we like, or we can look for the broader story, the bigger picture, and most likely the more accurate view. Isn't that the better way to go? Look for the bigger story. Look for the full reason. Look for the broad view as much as you can. And don't limit your story to just the blinded or the limited or the narrow view of all things. You may come back to that and it may be just the truth. But first look at the whole picture before you draw your conclusions. You'll be happier, and so will just about everyone else. Hey, it's a great Tuesday. I hope it's one that you enjoy. Go out there and see the big picture of everything that's going on as best you can. Well, if it's getting ready to rain, wait till the rain's done. Then go out there and do it. Okay, I hope you have a great Tuesday. Thanks for being with me today. We'll share some more in a couple of days, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful time. Thanks for being with me.